So here we are in Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is about organizational ethics, and business ethics as an area of study is separate from the general subject of ethics, and that's because stakeholders have a vested interest in the ethical performance of an organization. The situation where one person's value system can clash with the ethical standards of the organization's operating culture. Organizational culture is the beliefs, the values, the routines, the norms that all employees of that organization share. That's the organizational culture. You have your own individual culture, society culture, and there's an organizational culture. There's something called the value chain. And when we look at the value chain, this is a key functional inputs that an organization provides in the transformation of raw materials into a delivered product or service. If you look, I believe it's in your book, on page 48 of your book, you'll be able to see a representation of a company value chain from the start to the end. So when you look at, you hear in business all the time, you hear such terms as the supply chain. So when you hear that, that means from the development process and through production, through logistics, through delivery, through advertising it, marketing it, selling it, and then into the hands of the end user. So you see profit, service, sales and marketing, distribution, operations, supply chain management. So these are the primary activities and the costs that are associated when you hear companies refer to the supply chain. Now, critical to ethical business ethics, critical to business ethics, there are ethical challenges in research and development. Those ethical challenges are the critical commitment to the consumer, in that what it is that you're producing is indeed something that has quality, that it is safe, and that it is reliable. So that is our commitment as we're developing a product, producing a product, and putting it in the customer's hands. Tough decisions made when delivery of a design does not match the manufacturing cost figures. Use of fresh materials, or second best to save money, or full battery test run, or just computer simulations, all of those can help overcome some of the challenges that you may have as you're developing, as you're researching, as you're trying to put together product, service that'll be in the hands of consumers. There are ethical challenges in manufacturing. Some of those challenges that are inherent in manufacturing, in arising at a compromise, could be supply problem. If a product is built precisely based on the design specification, use of a less reliable supplier when delivery is held up, people get, they're not so happy with you. And the assurance piece, the quality piece is a problem too. So if you are dealing with an alternative or an alternate type of supplier, and that has some type of impact on your product or service, all of those they bring into question, are you going for low cost so you can save a buck, and thus in the end it affects quality, it affects reliability, it affects all those things that the customer safety that the customer is relying on. Here's an example. Years ago, actually, I want to say it was in 2000, maybe 2009, 2010, you can Google it. But one of the issues that happened with some of the stores, whether it was where I work, Army and Air Force Exchange Service, or if it was Toys R Us, or some of the places that sold toys. If you recall, if you're old enough, and if you're not, you need to look it up, where there was an issue about the toys that were being shipped into the United States from China. And the issue was that those toys were lead-based, and that was a safety issue for children. So companies like AFIS, like the Army and Air Force Exchange Service, now referred to it as the Exchange, they pulled all toys off the shelves that came in from China. And so you would have walked through those stores and you would have seen totally empty shelves. You saw the same things in Toys R Us. So we relied on American manufacturers, American companies, to be able to provide toys, although it was very, very lack that year when it came to offerings to parents for their children. But the issue came down to whether or not you were just going to continue and let it ship on in and just sell it, knowing very well that there was an issue with the quality and safety of the product. So some of the challenges when it comes to ethics in marketing is, okay, the products or the service that you're supposed to be providing to customers who have already expressed a need for and a desire to purchase those products. Are you providing what they've asked for? Unsuspecting customers are induced to buy stuff every day. They don't really know a lot about it. They're trusting what they see in commercials and advertisement. Marketers will argue that customer satisfaction justifies the methods used to achieve the outcome in spite of them misleading customers. So ethical challenges that you may see in marketing, utilitarianism and universal ethics. Utilitarianism, ethical choices that offer the greatest good for the greatest number of people. And universal ethics is actions that are taken out of the duty or obligation to a purely moral ideal rather than based on the needs of the situation, since the universal principles are seen to apply to everyone, everywhere, all the time. When we continue thinking about the marketing, the part within the supply chain about marketing, there's something that was put in place, just like I talked about the code of ethics for organizations. There's a code of ethics for marketing too, and it's referred to as the AMA, and that is the American Marketing Association, and they have put stipulations, so to speak, for those that are in marketing in America, and that is, we do not harm, we foster trust, we improve customer confidence, and there are clear ethical values at play. Now, let's move from the manufacturing, the marketing, and now over into the human resources area. Let's talk about human resources for a minute. Challenges in human resources, ethical challenges in human resources, goes to, are we ensuring that ethics is at the very top of the organization? Are we ensuring that the leadership selection and the development processes include some type of ethics component, whether there's training or whether, people in government, you sign an ethics sheet. Are we ensuring that the right programs and policies are in place? And do we stay abreast in the organization as leaders, as human resource leaders? Are we abreast of ethical issues? Moving from human resources over into finances is one area where people get in serious trouble with embezzlement, avoiding paying taxes, cooking the books, so to speak. So are we, when we talk about areas in the financial function, are we making sure that we're handling the flow of money through the organization in a right manner? So there's accounting functions and there's auditing functions. Then auditing function is really set up to evaluate, to kind of oversee, to make is a check and balance to see if our processes kind of safeguard us. The accounting function, it keeps track of all of the financial transactions by documenting the credits and the debits and balancing the accounts at the end of a period. The auditing function is a certification of the organization's financial statements or their books as being accurate by an impartial third-party professional. There are internal auditors, absolutely. These people, though, are grounded in professionalism, integrity, and efficiency. We have to make sure of that. We need to make objective, and these folks make objective assessments of the operations and they share the ideas for best practices so that we can put those practices in place within our organizations. Auditors provide us with counsel for improving our controls, our processes, and our procedures, performance, and they do an assessment of risk management within our organization. They also suggest ways in which we can reduce costs, we can enhance our revenues, and we can improve profits within the organization. They deliver competent consulting, assurance, and facilitation services. When it comes to an auditor, they have a code of ethics, and that is that they will not falsify any documents. They will not steal money from the organization. They will not undertake any form of fraudulent activity. And so that's something that builds confidence with stakeholders. It builds confidence, period. There are challenges that are faced by internal auditors, though. You've heard, because you've had to have taken an accounting course, you've heard of general accounting, accepted accounting principles. Well, GAAP is a set of standard operating procedures that govern the accounting profession. They are not a set of laws, established legal precedents, but they are a set of procedures. Now, that's when we talk about the internal auditor, some of the things that they face, some of the ethical challenges that they face are looking at creative bookkeeping techniques, legal to defer receipts from one quarter to the next to manage its tax liability. Is that legal? Ethical challenges they face, falsifying accounts, underrepresenting income, overvaluing assets, taking questionable deductions. That's the job of an auditor. That's their evaluation, looking at those processes within our organization and making sure that they're, I want to say, helping us stay accountable as to, staying out of those gray areas and eventually moving over into the dark side. So that's chapter 3, and chapter 3 is about the organization and some of those things that happen on the front line within our company, some of the ethical challenges that organizational the functions within organizations have to face, looking at the supply chain from the beginning, the birth of a product or service, all the way to the grade. So from the beginning to the end, going from the supply chain to selling the item and gaining some type of profit. Support activities to this representation of the company's supply chain are such things as product research and development, technology, system development, human resources, and general administration. So I hope that has somewhat given you an idea. We've talked about ethics, regular general ethics. We've talked about business ethics, and now we've talked about organizational ethics. So hopefully that gives you a framework into which you can start to continue to move on and look at ethics and the challenges thereof and some of the resolutions that you as a leader will have at you in your arsenal, your toolkit, as you're running your organization. Also recognize some of the challenges that you as a leader will have to face in organizations. You have your personal ethics, which I say should carry over into business organization anyway. You're supposed to be led by the Spirit. You're a Christian. This is looking at business through a Christian lens. So you already know thou shalt not steal. Cooking the books is stealing. Manipulating paperwork is stealing. It's dishonest and it lacks integrity, and that in itself does not represent Jesus well. So that's chapter 3, and I'll see you over in chapter 4. Thanks for joining in, and I hope these videos are helpful.